This is the number one question that I get asked, especially as an investment person, is people say, what should I invest my money into? Or a lot of people in business will say, what business should I start? And we've all heard the concept of money, or as we should say maybe currency, follows value. Okay? But what I find is a lot of times we throw out statements like that, but we don't actually zoom in and say what does that actually mean? Let's unpack this money follows value. And so when we look at this, first of all, I'm going to just draw this. This is going to be Jeremy, okay? And we talked yesterday about what is wealth, and I think very, very much in inputs and outputs. So we can control us, and we have a couple things. We have, this will look familiar. We have time. So some of us in this room may have more time than others, but that is, and the quality of time. So health is a part of this. We have our network or relationships. We have money and resources. We have our talents. So we don't have unlimited inputs, but we have certain, we could write a list of some things that we can relate to of okay, I have a God-given talents in some areas. I have time on this earth. I have some resources, and I have a network of people. Does this entitle me to any kind of money? Does me existing make me a valuable human being? No. I mean, okay, I was created in the image of God. That's a belief I hold, so yes. But that doesn't just entitle me to money. So how do we start exchanging what we call currency? What do we need to provide? What does this person need to produce to create value? There's only two things. We're not very creative, so I'm going to draw a dollar sign. This is going to represent money following value. Money is either created by two things, a service or a product. So let's break this down. You could be an employee for somebody. You could be an employee for a hospital. You could be a janitor. A janitor is providing a service. You could be a doctor providing a heart surgeon. They're both putting in the same amount of time. Which one is going to get paid more by the same institution? The surgeon. Not that the surgeon is more valuable than the janitor from a standpoint of big picture, but they're providing a service that we deem as more valuable than sweeping floors. Does that make sense? A business, you could have business A versus business B. They're doing the same things. Business A is crushing business B. That's all just a perception of value that business A is doing. Or it's a real value. It all comes down to supply and demand. That's what I love. It's very simple. It's there's not a lot of people building real estate for aliens because the demand for that is not there quite yet, okay? So, and then when we come down to products, not all products are created equal. You could have product A versus product B, and product A is able to charge more money because of the perception of value. So it really doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, you're working for someone, you're going to school. It comes back to how can I take this and produce what I'll call output, and the output is what we get paid on, not our input. This is what my generation needs to learn. It's not about how smart you are. It's about what you can create. And those of us that can create a value is going to be great. So this is what's awesome is when your output is greater than your input, that's what we can call profit, right? So if I provide 8 hours of work and I'm providing a service and they're paying me $20 an hour, I'm essentially agreeing to work for that, and so that's an input, 8 time. The output is what I'm getting paid. You start a business, I'm putting years of building this business into service, and the market is paying me for the service. Making sense? okay? And so when it comes to the three core questions, when we ask, okay, how do I know that my service or product is valuable? Because a lot of us are in businesses that probably could be elevated. There's three core questions that every single person needs to ask if they want to get really crystal clear on what their value they're bringing to the table, whether it's a product or a service. So question number one is, who? Again, if it goes back to supply and demand, if you have nobody, if you are the most brilliant person in the world and you created a product that nobody wants, it's not that valuable. So the first question we have to ask is, who are we serving? Again, going back to if you want to look for a job, your who is your employer. Who can I serve with my talents? If you're an entrepreneur, who's the people that could use my services? If you're creating a product, who is going to buy the product? If you're investing money, if you're investing money, you're just infusing resources, but ultimately you're investing for a reason. Who's going to benefit from this capital investment? This is a very, whatever we talk about, it relates to. So who are we serving? The second thing is, what problem do they have? What problem, what pain point, the people that we're serving, what are their actual pain points? Every successful service or product is solving a pain point. And the companies or the team members or the investments that speak to their ideal client's pain points and solve their pain points are actually going to be way more successful than just talking about features and benefits. And then the third deal is the actual solution. And this is where, if your solution is better than the competition, or if you're able to provide a service that's like valuable or better than the market, that's where you'll get a premium. So the step number one is we have to be able to take an audit of ourselves. A lot of us, when we looked at our intentional life or our perfect day, we're realizing that there's some friction and some gaps in what we say we want and are actually how we live our life. When it comes to network, we all have different networks. This is something I've been very, very intentional about because we're just an extent, like relationships are everything to me. When it comes to resources, we're all in different places. What's beautiful is there's so many success story after success story after success story. Money does not need, like you can be wildly successful and you can use this framework without resources, but having money does help. Think of it as maybe just an accelerator. And then when it comes to talents, this would be the thing that I would highlight because you are your greatest asset, and I truly believe that. If our definition of asset is something that creates value, something that creates cash flow, you and the ability to infuse talent into that is one of our greatest assets, and a lot of us aren't even visually seeing ourselves on our own balance sheet. Jeremy had an amazing example where he said money or even gold or currency, if we sit it in the middle of the room, has no inherent value unless it's infused with something. Like cash is not going to do anything. It's not going to multiply itself. It has to be infused somewhere. And then if we dedicate our input into creating some type of output, hopefully we know who we're serving, because you cannot create value without other human beings. Isn't that pretty profound? Value creation is impossible to do alone. You have to create value with other people. So who are we serving? What problem are we actually solving? And is our solution good? And how can we improve a solution? We may have a target problem. We might not know people's pain points, and our solution might be above average or below average. This is all going to determine the supply and demand. Is this making sense so far? Okay, so now the last thing is, a lot of people are living, they're dialed in, they're providing a ton of value, but they're missing something. They're missing what I like to call leverage. They're missing an amplifier. And all the people that I very much admire, especially on the entrepreneur side, they were able to take something that was revolutionary, and they didn't keep it to themselves. They used what's called leverage and amplified that. Now, the beautiful thing about leverage is it just amplifies what you are. So if you are have a bad investment and you pour extra leverage on it, you are going to just accelerate yourself to a bad place. If you have a bad business that's getting terrible reviews and screwing people, and then you put $1 million in marketing into it, leverage is not this going viral. Leverage is not just going to be this like ticket to wealth. That's what my generation does not understand. We want to be famous. We want to go viral. Even in marketing, people are like, a ton of marketing people are like, you just need to like do Facebook ads. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I don't think you should do a Facebook ad. Because like you have a sales problem. You have an offer problem. Or, there's so many examples that I can give. And so leverage, like the disclaimer I give to leverage is please don't leverage if you're not dialed in on this. Let's take it to an investment. If you have capital and you invest in a business and that business is really great, leverage can just amplify this return, but it can go the other way. And so this needs to be like, we could spend all day here and really getting clear on this, but when you dial this in, leverage is also the area that I notice that, especially in entrepreneurs, and I'm going to point out Charles and Tammy. I bet you, I don't know you guys very well, I bet you guys are providing massive value, and you're probably not leveraging very well. And I know that because you're the most amount of people that you've seen in a day is 4, which is amazing because you're providing massive value to that. And my head is like, if you have something that can change people's lives, how can we not taint this but create leverage? And maybe it doesn't change your internal practice, but what if it amplifies the message to go out to more people? That's just an example. So what is leverage? I'm going to use the just X because I think of it as a multiplier. And a lot of times when we think of leverage, we think of OPM, other people's money. And so this is like a great example of like you could go buy a property with cash, and let's say that property gets you 12% rate of return. Or you could put 10% down and leverage. And we all know that if you're borrowing at 5 and you're earning 12, that's 140% rate of return on your money. Because you're not disrespecting your money, you're leveraging something else, but you're getting a 12% rate of return. If you're getting a 0% rate of return, that's not great. So other people's money is one thing that if we have something underlying value, one of the things that we should look to is how can we leverage the capital floating around to amplify the ability to serve people, solve problems, and have a superior solution. Second thing is people. If you had a business, let's just say you're cutting grass, that's your business, and you were able to hire a person to help you cut grass, and you were able to make $10 per hour and pay that person $5, I'm just simple math. We see how like that person allowed you to be in 2 places rather than just one. Hiring team members especially if you believe in your business, if you can hire a team member and pay them X and get a greater result, you are literally multiplying your ability to provide value. People also could be network. This hit me hard. The fact that I went to IHOP and someone picked up their phone and got me a job at a bank. Power of network. I have friends that have leveraged network and it's gone the other way though. They weren't in the right. They didn't have the right heart. It accelerated them tanking. So it's not leverage. You're playing with fire, but leverage can be a powerful thing if you're in the right place and you're on the right mission to providing value, or investing in something that's providing value. This is something that will hit hard. Is media. When I say media, I mean language. If I was speaking Chinese right now, I would not be as impactful as I am now. Why? Because none of you know Chinese. Meaning I could speak and I could have some of the most profound things to say, but the lack of understanding, there's that gap. So the idea to be understood is a lever. We live in 2023. The ability to take a language and put it in a book or film it or do a podcast and like this one talk potentially could be heard by more than one people. That's the idea of leveraging a platform. The fact, if it was just Brent and I would be speaking with the same conviction and we would be jamming on this whole thing. But the fact that there's more than Brent in the room means that this is a mini platform. Do you guys understand? That I'm doing I'm not speaking twice. I'm not speaking extra loud. I'm speaking one time and more than one person's hearing me. The fact that we're filming this and potentially a clip of this will go on YouTube or go on our podcast or go on Instagram those are just other platforms that are just allowing us to amplify a message. That's a lever. Now, if we can go back to, if we're not actually providing value, it doesn't matter. Leverage is not the secret that will just solve all your problems, but it's an amplifier to help you expand the value. And nobody that we know from a standpoint or that has been really successful has done it without leverage. Right now we look at code. We look at, a very simple version of code is a website. We have AI right now that's insane. It's not perfect, right?
Right.
But it's
fail a calculus test.
It's close. It's insane. It's insane. AI is insane. And a lot of people are freaking out because they're thinking AI is going to steal their job. It will change things, but I see it as a massive amplifier to the people that can really understand how the value game is created. I'll throw this out here. I think if you can learn different skills. Now this could be input, so it could be almost in both sides. But if you learn skills, like if you can learn how to be more charismatic, I think that's a leverage. A charismatic person versus someone that has not learned the art of being charismatic. Could be an input, it could be a talent. So this is not like a perfect framework, but the way I think of everything is if I'm going to partner with somebody, I look at who they are. I look at what qualities, character that they have, and ultimately I ask the question, what can this person produce? What can we produce together? How can 1 + 1 equal more than 2? By the way, that's a great when you're bringing on team members. How can 1 + 1 equal more than 2? That you're going to have an amazing relationship. If 1 + 1 equals 1.5, no one's winning, because the ultimate goal is to take this either service or product, and again, we could put on our investor hat, we could put on our entrepreneur hat, but it's to amplify this. And we do that by either infusing more capital, bringing on more people, leveraging our network, learning how to communicate in written, different ways of communication, amplifying via platform, leaning into code, or learning new skills.